Greetings from Wisdom Words, a peaceful place to pause and reflect. One story at a time, we examine timeless teachings about life, serenity, and purpose here. So, pause, inhale, and let's get started. Letting go seems easy, doesn't it? A single word. Just a thought. However, it isn't easy at all, as anyone who has ever attempted to let go of someone or something understands. It's not a fresh start. It's not a moment of enlightenment or immediate peace. It's disorganized. It moves slowly. It hurts. Nevertheless, it is required. You'll hear most individuals say that letting go is liberating. They will say things like, "You'll feel better," or "It's for your own good," and eventually, they'll be right. However, nobody tells you how painful it is before it gets better. They never share the quiet moments when you realize that something or someone you love will no longer be a part of your life in the same manner, or the weight in your chest or the ache in your heart. Consider a handful of sand in your hand. You first hold on tight, believing that it will stay with you if you can just hold on long enough. However, it slides through your fingers more when you grip it tighter. And gradually, almost painfully, you realize that you have no control over it. No matter how much you'd like to, you can't keep it. That's how it feels to let go. After several years together, a friend of mine experienced a split. He believed that their love was sufficient to keep them together. However, he discovered that love isn't always enough to keep someone around. He battled with the idea of moving on for months. Every song, every memory, every aspect of his existence appeared to be connected to what he had lost. But gradually, day by day, he began to realize that forgetting was not the same as letting go. It wasn't abandoning what had been lovely. It was coming to terms with the fact that some things are not meant to be in your present but rather are part of your tale. This teaches us that letting go does not imply deleting the past. It doesn't mean pretending it never mattered. It entails figuring out how to carry the memories, the affection, and the lessons without having them burden you. And no one can ever prepare you for how difficult that is. Uncertainty is intolerable, so we cling to what we know. We fear letting go of relationships, jobs, habits, and even suffering itself, so we cling to them. Suffering in familiar ways is simpler than venturing into the unexpected. However, the reality is that letting go almost always leads to growth, freedom, and peace. Consider an instance where you hung on to something that was no longer useful to you. Perhaps it was a job that exhausted you, a friendship that had become one-sided, or a dream that no longer seemed right. How long did you reject the thought of moving on? And if you had given yourself permission to let go earlier, what may have happened? I once met a woman who had been taking care of a demanding and challenging family member for years. Despite her intense affection for him, she was starting to feel overwhelmed by the ongoing stress. The idea of taking a step back made her feel guilty, afraid, and even ashamed. However, she found a tranquility she had never experienced before when she at last gave herself permission to let go, to set limits, provide space, and trust life to unfold. She was no longer overwhelmed by responsibilities, yet she was still there and still loved. She discovered that letting go need not be an act of desertion but rather of bravery. Letting go is rarely linear, which is another reality. You could experience heartbreak one day and progress the next. Some mornings you wake up feeling lighter and more optimistic. On other evenings, grief reappears without warning, and you wonder if you have the strength to go on. This is typical. It is a human. Healing is a journey with many curves and moments that try your patience. It's not a straight line. Now take a moment. Shut your eyes. Consider a person or object that you have been clinging to even if it is no longer useful. How does it feel to think about letting it go? Are you afraid? Sad? Feeling relieved? Feeling conflicted? Hold on to that emotion because it's genuine. It's a step in the procedure. And the first step to real freedom is admitting it. We can also learn about impermanence by letting go. Arrivals and departures, beginnings and endings, are all part of life. Clinging too firmly only makes the departures more painful. We can approach life with kindness, thankfulness, and bravery if we acknowledge that change is unavoidable. Lessons and experiences can be carried with us without tying us to the past. The important thing to remember is that letting go is not selfish. It is a self-respecting deed. It's expressing that I deserve peace. I'm entitled to clarity. I deserve a life that lets me develop. By letting go, you respect both the world and yourself. Because when you clutch, you produce tension, anguish, and resistance. You make room for love, happiness, and new opportunities when you let go. Think about what is preventing you from moving forward today. What is the fear that prevents you from letting go of the sand? And what might occur if you relaxed your hold, even slightly, and let life unfold as it was supposed to? It's never simple to let go. It's a route that demands patience, compassion, and courage. You will feel pain, you will stumble, and you will doubt yourself. But you will discover freedom with each stride. Clarity follows that freedom. You'll begin to recognize that the pain of holding on is considerably greater than the discomfort of releasing. Breathe, then. Feel the burden. Respect it. And release it when you're ready. You deserve to do so, not because you have to. Because it's necessary, not because it's easy. You'll eventually learn that letting go is not the end, but rather the start of a more complete, thoughtful, and tranquil life. Letting go is a process that affects every aspect of your being. It's not just an action. Furthermore, nobody really alerts you to its intricacy. They may discuss finding peace, moving on, or finding closure. However, they hardly mention how untidy, emotionally taxing, and subtly unrelenting the process can be. Holding on is typically about more than just the other person or circumstance. It's about the unknown, change, and uncertainty that come with letting go. It's about confronting the aspect of ourselves that worries about losing something we know, even if that familiarity is no longer useful. And that's why it's so difficult to let go. It compels us to face ourselves in ways we frequently avoid. I remember a man I knew who had spent years in a friendship that was progressively emptying him. It had been lively at the beginning, full of connection and laughter. However, it eventually became biased. He clung despite giving more than he got in return and making more compromises than he ought to have. He persuaded himself, I can't just walk away. I've made too many investments. We've experienced too much together. Despite this, he felt exhausted, nervous, and empty after every encounter. He came to the realization that letting go and taking a step back had been much more agonizing than holding on. And he made room for connections that fed him rather than depleted him after that release. A prevalent misunderstanding is that letting go entails forgetting or distancing oneself. It isn't. Recognizing reality without resistance is the essence of letting go. It's about acknowledging that what you are letting go of no longer fits in your life while also respecting its significance. It's about allowing oneself to go on without regret, guilt, or humiliation. Consider it akin to tree pruning. Because branches have no value, you don't cut them. The reason you prune them is to make the tree more robust, healthy, and resilient. Letting go works the same way. It's an act of self-care and deliberate living, not a failure. However, the heart still opposes, even when we are aware of this logically. We experience waves of sorrow, outbursts of rage, residual uncertainty, and longing. There's no nice checklist, no rulebook, and no time frame. Some days feel lighter, some days heavier. It's common to find yourself thinking about what could have been or reliving memories on some evenings. It's a step in the process. I once heard from a friend about her experience quitting a long-term career she had put her all into. She cherished the people, the work, and the sense of self it provided. However, remaining had started to disturb her tranquility. She feared the unknown, worried about being judged, and tormented over her choice. Nevertheless, she found a liberation she had never known when she at last let go. She had more energy, felt lighter, and was prepared for the chances she had missed before. Not the physical step itself, but the emotional release, the letting go of attachment, had been the most difficult aspect. Take some time to contemplate what you are holding on to. Is it a memory, a dream, a habit, or a person? And why? Is it because it really works for you, or is the thought of letting it go too painful? How would it make you feel to think that if you let go, your life would become richer? In actuality, letting go is a continuous process. Over time, a succession of minor choices are made. It's choosing serenity over control, clarity over attachment, and courage over fear. Reminding yourself that letting go is a step toward wholeness rather than failure may be necessary on a daily or even hourly basis. The key thing to remember is that letting go does not imply abandoning love or care. It doesn't imply abandoning responsibility or dismissing the past. It entails setting limits, achieving equilibrium, and realizing that not everything in your life, no matter how significant, is meant to last. We have learned, been molded, and been led by the people, events, and times we release. And when we pay tribute to them with this understanding, we continue their teachings rather than bearing their burden. Now take a moment to yourself. Take a breath. Imagine the things you've been finding difficult to let go of. Imagine what it might be like to let go, even a little. Not dramatically or definitively, but gradually, thoughtfully, and purposefully. Take note of your body's stress, your mind's thoughts, and your heart's feelings. Let them be, without judgment, and allow yourself to begin the process. Letting go is a difficult process. It will test your tolerance, your courage, and your trust in life. However, it will also teach you clarity, self-compassion, and resilience. You'll find that the heart is more resilient than you thought. And letting go will gradually, piece by piece, transform from a painful act to a liberating one. Peace is reached with each stride toward release. Every decision to release your hold makes room for development, love, and fresh opportunities. And when you finally reach the spot where your heart feels lighter, you'll realize that the battle itself was a part of the lesson. You'll comprehend why it was difficult, why it hurt, and why you had to travel this path in order to reach your destination. Letting go is not the end. It is a start, an opportunity to live more peacefully, courageously, and with greater presence than before. And the more you do it, the more instinctive it gets, until you eventually find yourself navigating life with a level of insight and grace you never imagined imaginable. There is rarely a single, pivotal moment when letting go occurs. Most of the time, it's a sequence of emotional stages, sometimes subtle, sometimes overwhelming, that we negotiate quietly, frequently without help. The fact that these phases don't go in a straight line only makes things more difficult. You may experience strength one day, followed by a recurrence of anxiety, doubt, or grief. You may believe that you have moved on, but then you are ensnared in a recollection, a habit, or a persistent what-if. Denial is one of the initial phases. You persuade yourself that waiting isn't a big deal. It's okay, you reassure yourself. Denial shields us from the harsh reality that change is inevitable and that losing what we value will be difficult. Examples of this include "it will work itself out" or "I'll just wait a little longer." Although it is a natural defense, it also slows the healing process. Anger follows. Letting go can occasionally make us frustrated, not just with the circumstance or the other person, but also with ourselves. We can feel angry that we let ourselves get involved, that we made such a big investment, and that we thought something would fail. Although anger is a strong emotion, it also indicates that our hearts are attempting to make sense of the loss and bridge the gap between the past and the present. For many of us, bargaining comes after rage. This stage is sometimes characterized by hope, but it is also accompanied by bewilderment and emotional tiredness as we relive events in our minds, thinking, "If only I had done this differently," or "maybe if I try harder, it will work out." Clinging to the hope that we may somehow reclaim what we are losing, we are negotiating life. The stage that most people fear the most is mourning. Grief is intensely personal, weighty, and consuming. It disregards your plans and doesn't adhere to a schedule. It often appears unexpectedly and comes in waves, a song, a scent, or a resurfacing memory. And there is an amazing depth of love, significance, and introspection in that grief. It is the heart's recognition of what has happened and what needs to be let go. I once knew a woman who had been attempting to maintain a friendship that had gradually deteriorated for years. She fought change because she was afraid of being alone, regretting it, and what it would mean to let go. Grief washed over her like a wave when she finally let go of the connection. On certain days, it was too much. Other days, short. But over time, as she processed her feelings, she realized that letting go didn't imply that friendship was any less valuable. It meant making room for harmony and mutually beneficial, healthy partnerships. Although it rarely happens naturally, there is frequently a phase of acceptance following bereavement. Quiet, subdued, and perhaps quite undetectable is acceptance. It's the realization that letting go doesn't lessen your experience or the love you had, and that holding on is a choice. Acceptance enables you to get your breath, restore perspective, and realize that life still has beauty and potential, despite appearances. Additionally, there are ongoing reflections during this process. You ask yourself, what have I learned? What shaped me? What am I going to keep? The lessons are woven into your life by these reflections, which make letting go meaningful rather than meaningless. They are not burdens. I want to make it clear that this process has no time limit. While some people go through these phases in a short period of time, others take months or even years. It doesn't matter how fast you go. It is important that you give yourself permission to feel, think, and move at your own pace. True healing is only delayed if you push too hard or act like it's over before it is. Now think about it. What stage are you in at the moment? Do you have a strong hold on denial? Are you angry with yourself or the situation? Making deals with what ifs? Are you drowning in sorrow? Or have you reached the serene state of acceptance? A crucial first step in going forward is acknowledging where you are, which is an act of self-awareness and self-compassion. Additionally, letting go teaches patience, not the passive kind of patience, but the kind that respects your own heart, your own pace, and your own path. It teaches resilience, which is the capacity to experience intense emotions, process them completely, and come out stronger. It instills courage, the bravery to confront uncertainty, relinquish control, and have faith in life despite discomfort. The good news is that letting go does not guarantee that you won't experience sadness in the future. It doesn't make love less or erase memories. It changes the dynamic between you and them. Instead of being shackles that keep you back, the things you let go have become a part of your story. There is also freedom, clarity, and room for new possibilities in that change. Now take a moment to yourself. Take a breath. Think back on the emotional phases of letting go that you have gone through. Take note of the trends, the opposition, and the epiphanies. Without passing judgment, let yourself feel the weight of your path. And remember that every phase, every cry, and every contemplation is a step in the direction of tranquility. Each step is essential. Letting go is difficult, more difficult than anyone could have anticipated, but it is also incredibly human. It demonstrates our ability to feel completely, love profoundly, and develop despite obstacles in life. We learn that letting go is about reclaiming our present and building a life that is complete, robust, and full of possibilities rather than only letting go of the past when we embrace the process and proceed through each step with mindfulness and compassion. Understanding your emotions is only one aspect of letting go, another is figuring out how to deal with them so that you can go on without losing who you are. Real letting go is a practice, a daily decision, and perhaps a sequence of tiny, nearly imperceptible actions. Most people concentrate on the end result of letting go, envisioning an instant sense of relief or tranquility. Awareness is the first step. What you're hanging on to, why you're holding on to it, and how it impacts you must all be acknowledged. We frequently cling to things out of fear of being alone, fear of change, and fear of uncertainty. Even when a habit, relationship, or memory no longer serves us, we hold on to it because it seems comfortable. You may recognize these patterns without passing judgment when you are aware of them. It's not about placing the blame on yourself. It's about having clear vision so that you can take deliberate action. The next stage after becoming conscious is to give yourself permission to feel, grieve, and let go. Letting go does not mean denying feelings or acting as though they are unimportant. It's about allowing yourself the room to respect your emotions, even if they hurt. If you have to, cry. Write down your ideas. Talk to someone you can trust. Instead of attempting to combat the emotional waves, let them come. The first real step to liberation is letting go, even though it doesn't happen right away. Setting boundaries follows. Because we keep things close to our hearts, minds, or bodies, we tend to hold on to them. Setting limits enables you to make the room you require for recovery. It could entail avoiding particular people, reducing communication, or just setting aside time in your mind to think clearly. Boundaries are receptacles for your energy, not walls, which allows you to let go of things that no longer serve you without feeling guilty or ashamed. Story: for years, a man I knew found it difficult to end a bad relationship. Despite his intense affection, he was worn out by the ongoing suffering. He finally started establishing minor boundaries, such as shutting off alerts, refusing disputes late at night, and making time for himself a priority. It initially seemed self-serving, even immoral. But as time went on, these limits provided him power and clarity. He stopped allowing the relationship to define his peace, yet he still cared. Reframing your perception is another crucial technique. Letting go is about transformation as much as it is about release. Focus on the things you are gaining, such as independence, clarity, space, and the capacity to develop, rather than what you are losing. Rather than posing the question, "What caused this?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Or alternatively, "How can I respect the past without allowing it to burden me?" Here, reflection is essential. Spend some quiet time journaling, practicing meditation, or just taking a deep breath and thinking about the lessons that are concealed in what you are letting go of. What did I learn from this, you ask? How did it mold me? What aspects of myself am I now able to recover? These thoughts convert the act of letting go from a straightforward act of loss into a profound, life-changing experience. Lastly, cultivate self-compassion. It is not a sign of weakness to let go. It's a brave and self-respecting deed. Remember that it's acceptable to trip, to feel hurt, to think back on past experiences, and to have moments of uncertainty. Every effort you make is a part of your journey. Honor your accomplishments, no matter how minor, and have faith that every step you take will lead you closer to freedom. Now take a moment. Take a deep breath. Imagine the items you have been clinging to. Imagine slightly releasing your hold. How would it feel to respect your feelings, make room for yourself, and have faith that life will lead you? Hold on to that emotion. Give it time to settle. Today, give yourself permission to take even a modest step toward freedom. Letting go is a process, a skill, and a discipline. Not everything occurs at once. It calls for awareness, bravery, and patience. However, you can design a life that is lighter, more liberated, and more in line with your true self when you dedicate yourself to the process. You change your inner world as well as your external environment. And true tranquility is found in that change. Therefore, keep in mind that letting go is not about losing as you proceed. It's about obtaining independence, clarity, and the opportunity to live life to the fullest. You are getting closer to the life you were destined to lead, one in which your soul is unburdened, your mind is clear, and your heart is free, with each tiny decision you make to let go and each stride you take in the direction of acceptance. Letting go is a process of change rather than a simple act. By the time we get to this point, we've experienced the burden, worked through the anguish, fought doubt, and mastered the delicate art of letting go. Even so, there is another dimension that is frequently disregarded, the strength of accepting what comes next. You see, it's not about emptiness when you let go. It's not about making your life empty. It's about making room for yourself, for growth, for love, for clarity, and for yourself. It's about taking back your own vitality, voice, and presence in the world. And true freedom is found there. A lot of people are afraid of what happens when they let go. They fear the unknown, loneliness, or regret. However, they frequently learn that the unknown is something to be explored rather than something to be afraid of. Letting go allows us to enter life with open arms, prepared to accept whatever comes our way next. Additionally, there are always possibilities, connections, lessons, and unexpectedly beautiful moments in life. I recall a man who had been holding on to a relationship that had changed for years. Moving on, he thought, meant eternally losing love. He experienced both pain and relief as he at last gave himself permission to let go. However, in the weeks and months that followed, he started to notice little pleasures that he had previously missed, such as friendships that became stronger, inspiring new experiences, and a sense of calm that he hadn't had in years. Letting go marked the start of a richer, more liberated existence rather than its conclusion. The important thing to remember is that trust is taught by letting go. Have faith in your ability to prosper despite suffering. Have faith that, even when things cease, something worthwhile will still exist or that something new will come along. Have faith that with time, perspective will expand, clarity will surface, and wounds will heal. Now take a moment. Consider the things you've been finding difficult to let go of. Imagine yourself gently setting it down after holding it in your hands. Feel the weight in your shoulders drop and the tension in your chest start to release. This isn't forgetting. The past is not being erased in this way. This entails paying respect to the event, taking lessons from it, and bravely moving ahead. Integration is another crucial component of this step. Letting go means integrating what you've learned into who you are, not separating from life. You take the lessons, the love, the thankfulness, and even the suffering with you, but you don't let them hold you back. You become stronger, more resilient, and more present as you integrate and develop. Here, too, there is joy, quiet, delicate delight. The kind that results from understanding that life goes on and that you can still find fulfillment, love, and connection. Joy arises because you are free to live fully in the present, not because the past has been forgotten. Think about it, how would your life be different if you accepted letting go completely? If you let go of things that no longer serve you, what new things, people, or pleasures might come into your life? What would it be like to continue the learning without experiencing the suffering? Letting go requires bravery, endurance, and a deep sense of self-compassion. It is the discipline of making the difficult decision to choose yourself, your clarity, and your serenity. And the prize is freedom, not just ease. Freedom to hope, trust, and love once more. Freedom to live life freely, burden-free, and with an open heart. Breathe, then. Honor what you've let go of and feel its weight. Experience the airiness of the area you've made. Additionally, remember that letting go is a beginning rather than a finish as you proceed. It marks the beginning of a richer, more fulfilling existence that is more closely in line with your true self. You will always be asked to let go, trust, and develop in life. And you find something amazing when you respond with understanding and bravery. Letting go was never about losing. Clarity, peace, and the capacity to live fully, fearlessly, without attachment, and with an open heart to what lies ahead were the constant goals.